Good morning, everybody. Where did Carrie go? Oh, no. Oh, there she is.
Sorry. Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, friends who are joining us on a Saturday morning.
Yes, good morning, friends. I see we have some viewers that are waiting. It says they're waiting. It must be that delay.
Oh, potentially.
Mhm.
Hopefully Rumble works okay for us. Whoops. I've got Rumble on so I can see if anybody's chatting and you can hear my sound. Anyway.
Yeah, I
Uh,
just muted mine too.
Yeah, so I hope everybody's doing good. It's the weekend.
Ooh,
Whew.
we were ready for that. I know you've had a crazy week.
I have been so ready for the weekend.
And and now we're doing like the most challenging topic for Saturday morning.
We are. We're going to talk about the age of the earth. I think it's going to be a super interesting topic because we'll talk about creationism and evolution and uh, science and history.
Hmm.
All kinds of stuff. So, and I don't know that we'll get through everything. And I'm planning on, I started having a Substack for this one because I
Cool.
do think it's good to have like all of our sources and a lot of information on things that maybe we don't get to, or we could do a part two if we don't get to everything.
Okay. Sounds good.
So
And we
yeah,
saved the best for last, of course, but that's okay. We could dedicate an entire episode if we don't make it. So
yeah, it's a pretty large topic, but yeah, before we start, just if you're on, if you could like our video because it will get more exposure, and subscribe if you aren't subscribed. Uh, and let's hop into it. Should we maybe start with what the consensus is today as far as um the age of the earth and the history behind how they came to that? I don't know. Maybe that would be a good place to start.
yeah.
Okay, let's do it. So, obviously, science, uh, no matter where you go and learn about the age of the earth, they're going to say it's billions of years old,
Hmm.
you know? Uh, Sorry, I got to have my coffee.
Go for it. That's what really struck me is just sorting through a lot of information and I mean thousands of articles. And let's face it, a lot of it is propaganda, especially when you look at Wikipedia for creationists, and they call it a myth creation, the myth of creation. So anyway, it's knowing
Who's
that
calling it the myth of creation?
Wikipedia. But then we also just saw recently that the ex-founder said that the government took it over about, uh, was it, oh geez, sorry, 2 years ago or 2 decades? Probably 2 decades.
I don't know.
So,
I
I mean, it used to be a place you could go and really find information. I'm not saying all of it is,
Oh, you're talking about Wikipedia.
what did I say?
No. I'm just trying
Yeah.
to follow.
Yeah, recently it came out. The founder actually came out and said that the government took it over. The ex-founder.
Serious? Oh, yes, that's right. That just came out this week.
Yeah, and so when I saw that the myth of creation, I thought
Mm,
that's really interesting. But anyway, I digress.
yeah.
So what about 4.54 billion years with an error range of 50 million? Is that what you found?
Yeah, the billions of years. What's interesting is that, well, first I'm going to say good morning to Mike is on, Herbie is on,
Yay! Good morning,
Magnolia.
Mike and Herbie and Magnolia.
Thanks for joining us. I'm so
Thanks.
excited. It's a Saturday morning, so I really appreciate that.
Hmm.
No, but so the consensus of the Earth being billions of years old is actually uh, a fairly new theory,
Mhm.
and it is a theory.
Mhm.
Um, and it started in the late 1700s.
Mhm.
And so before the 1700s, people didn't think the earth was billions of years old.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, a little over the last 200 years, and I have a conspiracy theory about that a little
Oh,
later.
what's your conspiracy theory about that?
I'll wait a little bit.
You're gonna okay.
Yeah, anyway, so I don't wanna hijack the first topic, but it really has been because when you look at the scientists that are some of the greatest in our history, like Francis Bacon, he developed the scientific method. He was a creationist, all right? Leonardo da Vinci, everyone knows who that is. Isaac Newton, the father of the laws of gravity and laws of motion, he was a creationist. Louis Pasteur, the father of microbiology. Johannes Kepler, who was an astronomer, his discoveries of planetary motion are the cornerstone of modern astronomy. And the father of genetics, Gregor Mendel. You know, Wikipedia has him in there, but they don't say that he's a creationist. It's really interesting. But and these were all anywhere from 1452, that was Da Vinci when he was born, through the 1800s, and but mostly before the last 200 years. So Newton was the 1600s to the early 1700s. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, some of the greatest. And so when you think of the father of genetics, father of science, astronomy, I mean, all the great minds, and they were all creationists. So what happened? And then I love,
Well, I do know that there's one specific scientist from the 1700s that was the grandfather, if you will, uh, of putting these thoughts out there that the Earth is more than just a few thousand years old, and he was a Scottish scientist. His name is James Hutton. Is he one of on your list?
no.
Ah, okay. Well, he was yeah, he put out a sort of a theory of uniformitarian uniformitarianism. I can't even, it's so hard to say.
Mhm.
But where you look at today and the present form of what we can see happening today
Mhm.
to understand what happened in the past.
Mhm.
And it started uh, a whole trend of like naturalism, which is atheism,
Mhm.
where you know the only thing that exists is matter, and that everything can be explained by laws of nature rather than through uh, a creator, if you will.
But where
So
did the matter come from?
exactly.
I have 5 questions that they cannot answer, but that I was going to do that when we talk about evolution. But that is a real problem for them. You
It,
know,
it
where did the matter come from? It's like the conversation between God and an evolutionist. You know, the evolutionist says, so okay, yeah, you created man out of the dirt, the soil. I could do it too. Here, let me have some of that dirt. I'll show you. And God's like, get your own dirt. Can you imagine God doing that? Hey, 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 hey.
hey, hey,
That's my bad version. But anyway, yeah, where they
hey. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So before the 1700s, late 1700s, before this Scottish scientist put out a book about earth science. people all just, it was a standard knowledge that the earth was only 6,000 years old.
Yeah.
And so I think it's interesting that the thought of the earth being billions of years old is fairly a new
Mhm.
thing in the last 200 years.
Mhm.
So yeah, and then of course there was the birth of geology that
Mhm.
came in the early 1800s after that, and then we had Darwin. So
Mhm.
you know, between the theory of the earth, which is the book that this Scottish I don't know if he was a scientist or he was just a writer or a theorist, but he put the thought out there that made people doubt the age of the earth being young.
Mhm.
And then there was another thing that came out in the 1800s. I have so much information that I'm not able to pull up because I don't have it all organized. But basically, there was a book about the principles of geology that came out in the early 1800s
Mhm.
that kind of put doubt that there was even a flood. So once the geology information came out, they started talking about the layers of the rocks
Mhm.
and how that formed over millions of years.
So
And
they were refuting the flood,
so it made people doubt the flood.
and therefore the Bible. Well, it's interesting because every single culture back to ancient Mesopotamia have um, documentation, whether it's in their hieroglyphics or they have evidence of a flood. They have an understanding that
Oh,
a flood
there
occurred.
is so much. And honestly,
Yeah,
I feel like we could have a whole show just about the evidence of Noah's flood. I
yeah,
think
yeah.
we
We
should
could.
have a show on that because I have
Okay.
I've dug on that and I've got a ton of information on that too.
Yeah, I did
And
a I did a seminar. I took a seminar about it.
oh, you took one. I thought you meant you presented a seminar.
Oh no. But anyway, you know what was really cool though? This professor Brian Alters, who's a specialist in evolution research. Um, it was also he was the president of, I can't remember the organization, but he said, quote, while 99.9% of scientists accept evolution, about 50% of college students do not, and they think it's just a theory. So I don't know if that number has changed,
That would be interesting to see.
but the professors are all, a lot of them are on board. However, um, it used to be a battle between the creationists and the evolutionists, and then uh, there did come a time where a lot of the scientists uh, got on board with creation. Now they don't necessarily attribute it to the God of the Bible, but I mean, there's people like Hugh Ross who believes in an old earth, and he's a Christian. He came and spoke at my church, but there's different theories on how the earth could be old that Christians believe, but
Yeah, I feel like there's three types of people. There's the full on like evolutionists who believe the earth is billions of years old and that we evolved from matter.
matter and energy, that where did that come from though, right?
Right.
Mhm.
And then the second is, and actually I have a little video on that. The second one is people who are pure creationists who go based off of the Bible and the literal words of the Bible
Mhm.
and say the earth is 6,000 years old based off of before Adam there was 5 days and between Adam and Abraham was 2,000 years. Abraham to Jesus was 2,000 and Jesus to now is 2,000.
Mhm.
So remember our episode about from Adam to
Noah.
Noah. Yeah. I
Mhm.
love I love that.
Mhm.
And then the third is people who believe in creationism but
Mhm.
feel like or say that the Bible has a gap in it where it's not telling us everything between Genesis 1 and 2. That there's time
Yeah.
between Genesis 1 1 and
Mhm.
Genesis 1 2.
Right.
So
It's
they're they're
the
saying
gap
there's a
theory.
span of billions or millions of years that are missing between those.
Yeah.
And
There's the gap theory, and that's what you're talking about after
yep,
the first day. And so the universe and the earth was created and then long time. And then there's also the day age theory that some creationists believe, which is each day represents an age.
yes. Oh yeah, 4. So 4.
Right.
That's right.
Good
Yep.
morning, and God we trust. Um,
Hello, and God
join
we
us.
trust.
And so yeah, there's a lot of creationists actually that believe the earth is older, and I don't have a problem with them. I mean, I think if you really want to investigate it, everyone, watching, do investigate
Right.
it.
I don't have a problem with anybody for any of their beliefs.
But you know what I mean? It's like,
But
but we believe God created the heavens and the earth.
yeah, and the timeline obviously in the Bible literally tells us, well, honestly, let me share my screen because I've got Genesis up. So, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
Mhm.
And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the earth. Uh, so, Genesis literally, the book of Genesis lays out so much
Mhm.
information and so much history.
Mhm.
I feel like the Bible has uh, literally all the history
Mhm.
through Jesus.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because it's pretty clear that, like, it says that he divided the waters,
Mhm.
and he talked about creating the land after that.
Mhm.
um, so I don't know, I just, if you're not Christian, obviously you're not going to go based off of this book, but there are many people who are not Christian that say the Bible accurately reflects history.
Oh, well, it's the most authenticated historical document in the world, in history.
Hmm.
Remember, we talked about that. I mean, all of the copies of the Bible today are copies, I think there's like 22,000, are from 50 years within Jesus' life that were written then.
Yeah,
Okay. And
it's
so, and I know
incredible.
I mentioned this before, but Herodotus, the Greek histories, those which a lot of people just, it's their Bible, the Greek histories. The first copy was 800 years after the period that it writes about. So anyway,
Hmm.
yeah, it's been
Mhm.
authenticated, especially with the Dead Sea Scrolls. So if you, which a lot of people say, well, this Bible, it's been interpreted, men have changed it, la da da. But when they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it was a lot of the Old Testament, not all, but a lot, it just word for word, it authenticated it.
Yeah.
That and a lot of people were happy about it, and a lot of people were not. But anyway, so
Well,
there's a lot of evidence for it.
yeah, your question of where did matter come from?
Mhm.
It's it's a really good question, and it makes you think about the fact that regardless of what you believe, whether you believe in creation, evolution, that the earth is built or what, 4 billion years old,
Mhm.
or if you believe it's 6,000 years old, every single one of those beliefs require some form of faith, because it's like you either have faith in God and the Bible,
Mhm.
um, or you have faith in scientists.
Actually, don't you think they need a lot more faith? Seriously, to actually
Well,
believe all that.
I don't know. Yeah, to believe all that they do. They need, not only do they need a lot of faith, they need to have a lot of assumptions
Of course.
and hypothesis.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, but for let me I'm gonna just play this clip.
Okay.
It's Joe Rogan. He asks he makes such a good point in such a succinct way. I love this clip, so I'm gonna show it real quick.
Okay.
Terrence McKenna had a very funny thing that he said about science. He said, science wants you to believe that it's all about measurement and reason if you allow them one miracle. That one miracle is the Big Bang.
Yes.
That all things come from the most preposterous idea ever.
Yeah.
That everything came from nothing
Yeah.
in one big miracle.
That's right.
I
So
love it.
you have to, yeah, you have to, they have to believe that there was at least one miracle.
Yeah. But they don't talk about that. So it's really no one plus nothing equals everything. It really is preposterous. So
It is. I mean, yeah. And
Okay.
and you would think that and actually there are a lot of scientists that um believe in the fact in creation
Oh yeah.
and believe that the earth is younger than what the scientists say. And there's actual scientists that go out there and have evidence.
hmm
You know, like one of the pieces of evidence which we talked about having another show about is so much evidence of a flood around the world.
hmm
The Grand Canyon.
hmm
You know, do you know that after Mount St. Helens, um, uh, they discovered formations in the earth that were like a mini, uh, kind of a mini form of the Grand Canyon after the rains and the volcano and stuff.
hmm
And it happened within uh, just a month or two, or very short period of time.
Well, it was an earthquake and a volcanic eruption
Yes.
that they estimate was 500 times the power of the atomic bomb in Hiroshima. I mean, it was so
Yep.
explosive. People died, thousands of animals died, and it actually created like a whole new landscape.
It
That
did.
and then within 2 years, within a couple of hours, okay, that happened within a couple of
Yes.
hours. Like a new lake was over here. I mean, it was
Yeah,
amazing.
the water movement.
If they hadn't seen it or known about it, this is what is so fascinating. Um, so within 2 years, there was a dam breach that carved a gash through the area. And so it's like God is so amazing. Like up on the
That's what it
wall,
was. It was a dam breach. It
it was,
wasn't the rains.
you,
Yes.
you
Yes.
see
Yes.
all the sediment that took place, right? And
Mhm.
that's what a lot of scientists, what you're talking about is the geologic column, like the Earth's crust and how they date years or ages based on the layers of sediment. And
Yes.
so the sediment, you could actually see it. And if by their theory, or formula rather, they would have dated it at about 350,000 years,
Yes.
but it happened in hours.
Yes.
So that really threw a wrench. And that was 1980, because I was reading a lot about that. And it really threw a wrench in their formula.
It
And like,
totally did. And
yeah,
and
that's
it
radiometric dating, radiometric.
yeah, and it completely mimicked on a very very much smaller scale
hmm
uh, what is shown at the Grand Canyon when they look at the Grand Canyon. So there's some scientific proof that the Grand Canyon was formed fairly quickly. And water is so powerful. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
do you oh, didn't even have this plan, but I just think about how powerful water is. When you think about the tsunami um, that hit was it in
Was it
2004?
in Japan? Wait,
Um,
oh, wait.
in Indonesia,
Oh, yes.
that big one and all the
Yes.
videos, like it was mind blowing
Yeah.
to see how powerful the water was. And imagine that on a scale times a million, because if the earth is flooded in a giant flood throughout the earth,
Mhm.
water is so powerful. It can
Mhm.
move boulders, you know,
Mhm.
it's unbelievable. But yeah, I think it would be really interesting to kind of bring up a lot of that evidence.
Mhm.
There's
I agree.
also, there's also, oh gosh, there's so much if we talk about the scientific. Sorry, I'm jumping way ahead. Uh, so young Earth creationists believe that the Earth is 6,000 years old based off of the Bible. And other creationists, I'm just summarizing, believe that the Earth is billions of years old, but there may be a gap theory, a gap in Genesis,
Mhm.
and uh, there are evolutionists who don't believe in creationism, that believe the Earth is millions of years old and believe we evolved from amoebas,
Yeah.
that we used to be monkeys.
It is interesting because there are theist evolutionists who also incorporate the day age theory, but they don't attribute it to a God that, is intimate, God of the Bible.
Hmm.
It's a supernatural. So,
Yeah,
there's a lot of overlap.
that's true. Yeah, that's
And
true.
yeah, and so they could potentially be aligned with the time frame in the Bible. Um, but as far as but they incorporate that day age and gap theory again, which also some creationists do. But then there's the naturalistic, which they say the universe is 14 billion years old. That's the universe, and then the Earth is still 4.5. So there's a lot.
There are a lot of different theories out there.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm not saying that anyone is right or wrong. I just have, uh, questions to ask, questions worth pondering.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, especially with science, because what science does is they science keeps changing.
Mhm.
Um, and even through COVID and stuff like that, it's like trust the science, trust
Mhm.
the science. But honestly, everything from science that talks about what happened in the past,
Mhm.
the historical science, not like experimental science. Um, everything is based off of assumptions, and they have to have a hypothesis first or an assumption before they start. So some of the things are, they might be able to observe, like we're going to talk about carbon dating, but maybe they are observing how fast carbon degrades, and they're assuming that carbon has always degraded at that rate, even though they can only observe it for they can't observe it over 1,000 years, right? They can only observe it over whatever time their experiment is.
Right, right.
So they have to make an assumption that their current measurements would be the same, 1,000 years ago,
Mhm.
or would go at the same rate, or they have to have assumptions. You know what really interested in me is I was reading that scientists are not allowed to have a hypothesis that there was a creator as a part of their
Mhm.
science,
Mhm.
you know?
Well,
Um,
yeah.
but they have to have they have theories, they have hypotheses. Hypothesis, the only difference is that something you theorize before you start your research. You're
Oh,
you're predicting what your ending outcome is going to be. So they have hypothesis, then they have theories. Theories are not facts. Theories are
mhm.
ideas, thoughts, assumptions. you know, they have a consensus, like the scientific
Mhm.
consensus.
Mhm.
They speculate, you know.
But we also have discovered through people in the field that were canceled and silenced during the whole,
Yes,
COVID, that the journals are altered, and they're altered to fit the narrative. It's like if they want this outcome, they do the study to get that outcome. And so
mhm.
I'm not saying it's all corrupt, but we have to understand that there are
But
those.
even,
Go ahead.
yeah, I know, I get it, because that happened in COVID.
Exactly. And so it's the medical journals, it's the scientific journals. And I actually went looking for, why do they persist? And it's a little bit of a segue from what you're talking about. But I read a lot of interviews of scientists, physicists, molecular biologists, and even this president of the Institute for Creation Research. And they agree that the consensus is a problem of a vested interest, that their jobs, the
Mm,
textbooks, if they went against that, all the textbooks would need to be changed, their government work,
exactly.
their research grants, their coveted lectures, peer pressure, political correctness, all of that. I mean, we've seen it, right? And so it
Mhm.
appears that it's really about pride, self-preservation, and then follow the money, isn't it always? That's a reason for a lot of it, why they continue.
Well, and sometimes they just don't want to be ridiculed
Yeah,
or
exactly, the peer pressure, right?
the peer pressure.
Yeah.
But I will say for the non-corrupt scientists, still they have to speculate. They still have to make inferences, and they will change their mind if as the data changes over time. Have you noticed that it's like, oh, science, we thought this, but now science says this because we discovered this. So things are always being discovered, and then
Yeah.
they
Mhm.
change their mind.
Mhm.
I was just watching something about Jupiter's not what we thought, and they discovered, like, they're still discovering
There's
things.
still so many mysteries, absolutely. But there was another article I was reading in The Biologist, if I may just finish that thought, which this gentleman, he was a molecular biologist. He said, "Nobody I know in my profession believes it evolved. It was engineered by genius beyond genius, and such information could not have been written any other way. The paper and ink did not write the book." So I think that it's possible that a
What
lot of
was that referring to?
this was in an article written, it was published in 2000 in The Biologist about evolution. And he's basically
Oh,
saying that he doesn't know anyone that actually believes in evolution, and that they are very aware that it was engineered by genius upon genius, are his words. And the paper and the ink didn't write the book by itself.
well,
It,
that's a really good analogy for actually how our DNA is made. So,
you know,
uh, if we look at our DNA, it's super interesting. The structure of it is very similar to um, language and communication and intelligence.
mhm,
They discovered that there are, it's almost like, you know, how if you were to discover a tablet that was written in another language and you wouldn't be able to understand it, but you would have to try to decode it. There's information there, and you'd have to decode it to know what the information is. And our DNA is similar, so there's information as to what makes up Nevs, what makes up Carrie,
mhm,
um, literally in our DNA through a language. It's interesting, just like computers are ones and zeros. And
mhm.
based on how those ones and zeros are formatted from a software engineer, of
Mhm.
course, I have to give that analogy since that's like the business I'm in. Uh, but you know, and that can make up an application that you can see on your screen and software that you can use.
Mhm.
DNA is a lot more complex than ones and zeros. I think it contains like 4 different, rather than just ones and zeros. Like they have it made up into like 4 different letters, and but it's code. It's code. They discovered that our DNA is code, and there are, and it's coded into a language as to telling how our molecular structure should be formatted. It's so interesting. I couldn't stop reading about it and learning about it. So I actually, that was one of the things. But if our DNA is like that, is a code, and it is like a language that says and information about what makes up Nevs, what makes up Carrie,
Mhm.
then it has to come from intelligence. That
Yeah.
can't be random,
Yeah, of course.
you
And
know?
and that's why one of the 5 questions that evolutionists cannot answer, one of them is, how did life come from non-life? So
Hmm.
I like to say, like, how did dirt evolve into a human brain? I mean, that's the extreme, but you get the idea. And, but they insist that a complex organism developed over a long string of gradually accumulated good mutations, preserved by natural selection, right? And
Well, the thing of it is they need time for that to happen. Well,
yeah,
what is magic? Like, at what point in time does that magic happen?
they need a lot of time.
They can't explain that.
And it goes completely against the laws of probability. And I mean, what they insist upon, it is so rare. It's like 1 in a billion trillion.
Hmm.
And and then of course, how did nothing turn into something? We already talked about that. But here's another one. How did millions of life forms evolve with absolutely no evidence of major change?
Now that is a good question worth pondering.
I had to find time to do that.
Yeah. So I mean, there should be millions in if like of transitional forms, whether fossils or any kind of creature, right? There should be.
Oh, we should get into that topic. You go ahead and finish your thought.
Okay, so the 4th one is, how can a watch come into existence without the watchmaker? Which goes to your point about DNA and how, I mean, our DNA is so much more complex than a watch. Okay, so how does that come into being? And then, how did non-intelligent matter develop itself into highly intelligent form? And
Exactly.
they're not even really trying to answer that. They
Well, they do. They try to say that it evolves over time, and what they need. This is why people. This is why the push for saying the Earth is millions of years old,
huh.
because they need time.
But oh,
Go ahead.
the second law, again, science, the second law of thermodynamics refutes that, because that states that matter rather moves from a greater to a lesser concentration. It's just a law of nature. So entropy always increases. So like hot water will become cold unless there's an outside source, keeping it hot. And so evolution defies this law, because they move from greater concentration to lesser,
Mhm.
even our bodies as we age,
Yeah,
right? And so
I'm experiencing that as we speak.
I think we all are. And so, yeah, they try really, really hard, though, to say, well, the second law of thermodynamics, it really can work with evolution. Anyway, y'all can mind numb researching this and all the things that they try to link together, but there really is no cogent explanation.
There isn't, and there's actually proof, scientific
Mhm.
evidence to prove the alternate. I just want to say quick, Moxie joined us, and I didn't mention
In
at the
chat?
beginning. Yeah, she's in
Oh,
chat. Hey,
Nice.
Moxie. Moxie had a late night birthday. Her birthday's coming up. She had a late night birthday celebration last night, so she's not joining us this morning. But I hope you at least have your coffee. I have my hashtag blessed. Uh,
Oh,
my
nice.
hashtag blessed cup. Yeah. But yeah, I would love to dig into some of the like talk about dinosaurs and the fossils and stuff like that actually can show uh, a young Earth and the proof of creation. Um, Carbon dating. I don't know if you looked into any of the carbon dating, but I find it fascinating because um, that we're all made of carbon.
Mhm.
And when we die, whether you're an animal or human, doesn't matter, you start to lose carbon, and it denigrates over time. And um, they have a specific uh, lifespan of how long carbon can exist in a body before it no longer will show carbon.
Mhm.
And it's super interesting because it would be based off of science, the scientific research around that from observational science, not historical science. It based off of the rate of how quickly carbon denigrates and leaves
Mhm.
the body. They cannot date anything that they would say is millions of years old because there wouldn't be any carbon. They couldn't carbon date it. There wouldn't be any carbon left. So they wouldn't know when that carbon left. So they make assumptions based off of the rock formations and stuff like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
So what's interesting is I think it's 100,000 years max that they could potentially date something. What's interesting is they have found fossils of dinosaur bones that still show carbon in them. If they still showed carbon
Ooh.
in them, that means they couldn't possibly be millions of years old
Hmm.
because they wouldn't be able to see carbon. It wouldn't be available in these specimens.
Interesting.
It's so interesting.
Mm.
I want to pull up. Uh, it's not just that. It's incredible actually. I got to look at my notes and see. Yeah, so those are some recent. Oh, not only that, there have been recent tests that have debunked carbon dating
Mhm.
as it's fake. It's completely fake. So they purposefully took some known. I do want to. I'm not going to pull up for you. I just have some notes for reference.
Okay.
So they purposely looked at different animals and different things where they knew the date that it happened.
Okay.
So um, there's uh, there's one one test where they knew that seals they had the bones of seals that they knew died recently. Like
Mhm.
I don't remember if it was within a year or something like that.
Okay.
They did dating on it, and the dating showed 1,300 years
Wow.
old.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's the same
Uh,
thing with the radiometric dating, the geologic column. There's
exactly. They looked at rock formations that they knew when the rocks were formed. So there was
Hmm.
in Sicily, there was a rock formation they knew happened in 1972,
Mhm.
and they did isotope dating on it. So this isn't even carbon dating. This is another form of
For
dating.
rocks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the isotope dating, even though they knew these rocks formed in 1972, the dating method showed
Mhm.
that they formed 210,000 to 490,000 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yep, there's a place in Hawaii they dated. They knew that it was formed in like the 1950s. It showed it was between 2 to 15 million years old through
Wow.
the scientific dating.
Wow.
And yeah, the radiometric aging too, they tested that on known samples.
Mhm.
They had I don't remember what it was they were dating, but it was known of a formation that happened within the last like 2 decades, and
Mhm.
it was dated between like 500,000 to 2 million years.
Wow.
So these forms of dating
Mhm.
are inaccurate, and scientists are gonna stand by them.
Mhm.
And but I've been doing research, and I've been finding these tests that they've been doing lately are showing that the dating methods they use are not trustworthy.
Yeah, and that's why there's a lot of estimated and suggested, there's a lot of words like that, but every now and then it's like they have confirmed, but
Yep.
so
No, go ahead. Continue.
um,
I'm getting some other stuff.
so I think that we need to actually look at Darwin, because his Origin of the Species that he published in 1859 was, he's been hailed as one of the great biologists, along with some of the fathers of science that I mentioned earlier that are creationists.
Yeah.
And just to by the way, the evolutionists they completely adhere to it. They're atheists. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's a given.
Well, not every evolutionist is an atheist.
Well, the theist evolutionists, but as far as the ones that don't believe there was a God, I mean,
Mhm.
obviously they cannot their belief before anything is that they're atheists, and so they cannot acknowledge a creator, and so it's a supernatural power. It's not the God of the Bible.
Right.
Okay, that's all I mean. But yeah, there are old Earth creationists. But maybe hopefully this is the right time. I'll try to be brief. But like how does he share the position of one of the greatest? I think like Wikipedia has him like the first as the greatest biologist, and then they mention all the other like Bacon and the other ones I mentioned. So I mean, it took hold with ferocity, right? The
Well,
theory,
Darwin's theory?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so to the point that it's mandated in higher education and it's also in lower education. And so here's
You
my
know, they won't let, sorry to interrupt, but they
okay.
won't let kids in school, they won't let teachers in K through 12 teach creationism.
Yeah. But evolution is in there. Okay.
Yeah,
So
even
here's
though
my
that still requires faith in, maybe it's not in a God, but it still requires faith in something.
absolutely. And of
It's
course, but it's their religion. Okay. It's the science is the new religion.
but there's science to prove creation too, so.
Absolutely. So my conspiracy theory.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so Darwin's father was a wealthy financier and he was part of the Free Thinker Society. Just a little background. He believed that religion was not only a lie, but dangerous. So that was the environment that Darwin grew up in.
Mhm.
Okay. And then I learned that he was a contemporary and an admirer of Karl Marx, the father of communism.
Mm.
And they
I
exchanged.
didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. I don't even know how I found that.
Wow.
Uh, but they were admirers of each other. They exchanged many letters. You could actually read them. Um, in one letter, Darwin congratulated Marx on the publication of his Communist Manifesto.
Oh,
Okay, it gets better. There's a lot of speculation that they worked closely together with Darwin's life origin theory and Marx's political theory.
mm.
And Marx actually referenced Darwin twice in Das Kapital. because Origin of the Species hadn't been published yet. And it really seems like what Darwin tried to establish as the gradual transformation process of life, that Marx was doing the same thing, but in the social field. And here's a quote with Marx's ideology. It describes history as a social Darwinist survival of the fittest dominated by the conflict between different social classes and moving to a future in which social conflict will ultimately disappear in a classless society. And look what
Oh,
we're, right?
yeah,
Look what we're
yeah.
dealing with now.
Mhm.
Okay. And so Marx extended Darwin's theory to the study of humans in society and focused it on socialist communism. Okay, so now this is what blew my mind. Karl Marx was the third cousin of Nathan Mayer Rothschild.
Was he?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
I know. Marx's grandmother was Nanette Solomon Baron Cohen, and her cousin, his grandmother's cousin, married Nathan Rothschild, who
Mm,
at the time had assumed the power, complete control over the Bank of England, their central bank.
yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
so are we connecting the dots? And so during this time, Marx moved to London, and he wrote Das Kapital there. So all these timelines, and that was 1849, and Origin of the Species was published in 1859. So they kind of had compatible ideologies, but with different channels, right? It almost seems like coordinated, especially with their,
Doesn't it seem coordinated, just the timing of when
Yeah.
all of that came out, plus
And
although Darwin didn't introduce, but Darwin sort of made people question whether there's even a creator.
right, and that was his goal. I mean, he sought to wipe out creation and remove God from our origin. That's what he did in evolution, in
Yep.
Origin of the Species. And Marx sought to destroy capitalism,
Mm-hmm.
which, any kind of tyrannical communist regime requires total loyalty to the regime, and they
Yes.
don't want God in it. Okay, so you can see, right? And they also need a centralized government and a centralized bank
Yes.
to control the masses. And so,
Wow,
okay,
you connected quite the dots there.
I think it's pretty dasting. And when you look
It
at
is dasting.
how long the Rothschilds, I know they're always the boogeyman, but hey, if the shoe fits, like what we've learned, but the Rothschild dynasty has controlled the world's money for about 2 centuries,
Oh
when
yeah.
all of those scientists started, moving toward evolution. And we know that central banks and the elite, their number one favored place of philanthropy are universities. They love
Mm.
to donate to universities, and the Carnegie Foundation is one of them. And their motto is that a mission to catalyze transformational change in education. So they're just pumping in all this money into the universities. The theory of evolution is mandated, and there's all the other voices dissenting or silenced. Where have we heard that? I mean, when we did our Fed uh, episode, all the voices that came out against the central banks, they were assassinated. They were
Mhm.
taken out. And then another example of how university influence, I was reading, we kind of maybe you've read about Lucy, the bones that were found in Ethiopia. Do you remember?
Yep. I
Okay.
remember Lucy.
Yeah, and so I discovered that her skull was fragmented to an extreme. There were no hands or feet, and it was only about 40% of the skeleton. And so, but it was hailed as this revolutionary discovery, and this little 3-foot tall primate,
Yeah, I
the mother of
actually
Eve.
yeah, I didn't save anything for this, but as a part of some of this research, I saw that they copied some of the bones that they had, and so other museums could have them, and they
Mhm.
each one of these places hired different artists to do a artist rendition of Lucy, and they all look different, every single one of them.
Interesting.
So yeah, they try to say that the artist can recreate what something looked like from their bones, but
That tells you right there that
well,
what
one
they
of the
said
things,
is up for interpretation. And the most important thing is that there was no platform for dissenting voices on, hey, wait a minute, that's not, there's none. No platform for it.
one of the things I noticed with this is that some of the renditions that the artist did, it's almost like they were directed how to create them. Some of them that the artist did, they had Lucy like bent over and huddled over. Some they had her standing up and looking very human like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because it's like they were it almost reminds me of propaganda, because they rendered them based on the story that museum was telling about Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's interesting. For the ones that wanted to claim evolution, they had her looking more ape-like, whereas other museums used, based off of her bones, what some are saying is a more realistic depiction where she looks very human.
Right.
So, and they're trying to say she was millions of years old, but
Right. But again, it's the universities
yes,
that really pushed it and hailed it as, this is it. And
mhm.
so it appears, and now we really see it. We probably didn't notice until this whole period that we are experiencing now of, revelation after revelation, that they really have targeted education to fundamentally transform society.
Yeah, the universities actually are the birthing place for all of science.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it
So,
has been that way for longer than the 200 years, but I do see a correlation between the timing of Marxism and Darwinism
yeah.
coming together at the same time. It's pretty interesting.
Well, and if we understand too that the Ivy League schools were founded by Christians, and they've
Mm,
totally gotten rid of their original documents and why they created them, and it was all based on God and the belief in God, and
mm.
that's not there anymore. I mean, Harvard was just voted the #1 worst university for being able to, like, for free speech.
Yes, I saw that.
And so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I love how you connected the Marxism and Darwinism. That's pretty cool.
Because it was a sharp turn, and it was all within a period of time where the Rothschilds really took over the central banks. And when you have control of the money,
Can you? Isn't it amazing whenever we come up with like conspiracies we believe are happening, that you can really connect the dots
yeah,
on anything almost?
yeah, it's
Or-
amazing that you can find it, that it hasn't been
Yeah.
scrubbed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, actually, there is a lot of information that has been scrubbed.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you have to store it. That's why, this was.
Do you know that even the archive sites are scrubbing archives?
I believe that. I mean,
So, yeah, there's some archives that I couldn't find that I could get to before, and now it suddenly says not available.
I mean, I had searches that I found stuff in, and then my computer would shut down.
Hmm.
And pulling back up the same search, and it's like, wait, where did that go? So I have to go to my history. It doesn't come up again. So anyway, but I don't know where we are. Are we okay? We talked about old Earth.
Well, I kind of want to still talk about dinosaurs and
Okay.
animals and stuff, just because I don't think we finished
Okay.
that. I know we're hopping all over the place. There's
Okay.
just so much. I know I didn't even cover like how diamonds, they're finding carbon in diamonds, and how is that possible when they say diamonds are assumed to be billions of years old?
Well, I mean, that's what they're made out of,
Yeah.
carbon.
So anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
there is one more thing, and I think I do have something to show for this. What I want to know is the evolutionists say dinosaurs lived millions of years ago, but that humans did not live alongside of them. But there is evidence that humans actually depicted historical references of pictures of dinosaurs. And I just find this intriguing. Now, this was the last thing I was researching, so I haven't finished, and I kind of want to get into it more. So what I'm going to show is just going to be quick because, but it's so interesting. And I was just watching a video a couple of days ago where someone was talking about how dragons are mentioned in the Bible, and that dinosaurs, the word dinosaur is a fairly new word, that we didn't coin the term dinosaur until like the 1950s, I think.
I didn't know that.
And yeah, people referred to them as dragons in the past.
Oh, okay,
Interesting,
cool.
huh? Well, and if you think about it, like people say, oh, there is no like the Loch Ness monster. You know, all the sightings of that, it always looks like some kind of dinosaur, and it's but yeah, I'm going to share my screen. So there are carvings in the rocks that look, oh shoot, I need to make this bigger. There are carvings in rocks that look a lot like different dinosaurs. So here's an old prehistoric fish. And there are rock carvings that look a lot like this. This is from Native Americans in the Pacific Northwest. They called this a sea wolf. There are depictions of that look like the same fish on ancient art. And there is a lot of artwork. I think we all know, we've seen artwork of dragons. Like, where would the idea of dragons come from in China?
Right.
You know, and all of that. So this is just one page that shows a lot of different art from all over the world, really.
Interesting.
Showing, and then the picture of like a sea serpent rising out of the water. There's actual, you know, prehistoric bones that they found of similar looking things. And well, I'm not going to, I'll keep my other thought for later, but I find this very interesting. So some looks like, I don't even know how you pronounce this, a plesiosaur, potentially long-necked ocean-going reptiles. So they actually existed. So for anybody who's like saying, you know, anybody who sees something, they're delusional, is probably a log. You don't know. We don't know.
They might still be down there. I
They
mean,
might still be exact. The earth is huge. And do you know how many species are discovered every single year? New species. Yeah, and there's artwork like this looks like a turtle with a really long neck. Other artwork that was found. I just find this so fascinating. I do want to look into this more, and I'll include it on the Substack. That's one.
Okay.
This is another page that shows similar artwork as well. I just find it fascinating. So you've got hieroglyphics, you've got wall paintings, you've got it over in Egypt, in China, even in North America with the Indians depicting these things. The Bible mentions dragons. Here's carvings on a rock of a large bird, you know.
Is that Aussie? Is that what it is? I'm not sure, but you know, I just did a quick little search of dragons in the Bible, and so of course we know that in Revelation the the great dragon was thrown down. So it's in Revelation for sure, but it's also in Job and Isaiah, Psalm as well. Huh.
Interesting. So I think we need to follow more with that. If you see anything interesting you want to call out. But yeah, I didn't finish my research, but I was hearing that there were dragons mentioned in the Bible. And it's like, here's a Chinese dragon depiction artwork.
Mhm.
And yeah, here's another one. So there is a prehistoric animal that looks exactly like this. I don't know if they show it on this page or I'm not sure, but flying serpents, there's artwork. And then there's the dragons, of course.
Mhm.
And yeah, I find this super fascinating. I'll put links. I definitely want to do a Substack on this and list the different dinosaurs
Cool.
that they've been able to show artwork that looks exactly like the bones that we've discovered.
Mhm.
There's even
From the
more.
ancient civilizations.
What's that?
From the ancient civilizations.
Yes,
There
while
have
people were alive. And I know that there are questions, other questions about if the Earth, if evolution isn't right, then how can there be like so many different types of dogs and cats? Like you've got lions, and then you've got the house cat. You've got wolves, and then you've got dogs. So you've got monkeys, and then you've got people, and they're like all of these evolved from
Yeah, why do we still have the old species?
one source. But one of the things
Why didn't they all evolve?
yeah, I have so many videos that I don't know which one it is, so I'm not going to show it, but I will organize things into the Substack. But there is one video, and they're talking about our genetic makeup
Mhm.
And our chromosomes. And there's only so many variations in our chromosomes. They don't make us into a different animal. They can only make us into like different eye color, different skin color, different hair,
Mhm.
And the way that it's described is showing that it's impossible for evolution to take place, because there's only like, even if you have chromosomes that are, how you can have a defect or something like that, or
Yeah.
somebody could be born without an arm, like
Usually a
there's
mutation, but not a good one.
right. And that's not evolved. So like if they have a child, that child's not going to be without an arm,
Right,
you
right.
know, like
That's like the 1 in a billion trillion.
they're still going to be
That is
human.
a good mutation. The one,
Right.
yeah. So I know what you're saying.
It's just like, whether you're in Africa or whether you're in Asia or the Middle East or the United States or Europe, we're all human. We're all the same race. There aren't different races. There's different chromosomes that make us look different.
Mhm.
So I find that science super fascinating, just like the DNA science too. And yeah, anyway, sorry, I kind of digressed.
That's
What
okay.
were we talking about? Where were we at?
Well, I wanted to look at, because let's see, old Earth creationism, we established that gap theory, day age, and just some of the objections that they have to young Earth. That is interesting.
Yeah,
So,
like what questions do they ask
yeah.
about a young Earth?
Well, one is it would have taken a long time to grow an environment to maintain and support life. And many of the old earthers appeal to 2 Peter 3:8. One day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. But God lives outside of time, and he created time.
Mhm.
And so it's taken out of context. It just
That
makes
is completely taken out of context.
exactly,
And
but they're like
Genesis doesn't say that. It says on day 1, on day
right.
2.
So, but
Mm.
that's one of the things, and then if Adam was created fully mature and the animals as well, God didn't create bird eggs. You know,
Right.
everything was mature and the garden was mature. And a lot of a lot of scientists bring in that Mount St. Helen. Well, oh, you know, it would have taken too long each day for it to develop to sustain life. But they found that within 20 years, Mount St. Helen, which was like a desolate rock formation, it's a dense forest today.
Yeah. Oh, guess what else? Guess what else similar to that?
What?
I don't remember if you heard a while back that the coral reef was going to go away. It was going to devastate the planet. They're talking about climate change.
Right.
In
Sunscreen.
20 years, the coral reef, they were able to watch it grow exponentially
Yeah.
and thrive, and they're shocked by that. They're shocked by that.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
thing.
Right. So, okay. So the other one is the
Mhm.
problem of distant starlight. That's a big one.
I have that on my list.
Okay. So a lot of the old Earth creationists as well as evolutionists say, well, if a star is billions of light years away, then the Earth can't be young because it takes that long to travel to Earth, right? But Einstein discovered that the rate at which time passes is affected by motion and gravity. And we know about his general relativity theory. Sorry, I don't want to get too scientific, but the special relativity theory tells us that moving at the speed of light years, time slows down or even stops. And he also discovered that it doesn't necessarily move the same in every direction. So there and back, let's say. And so the implication is that when looking at distant starlight, it very could be light that we're seeing right now.
Yes.
And
It's a
and
very complex subject to have to try to distill down to a simple form.
well,
But
it doesn't experience light doesn't experience time like we do.
exactly, that was going to be my point, is that time is a man-made thing because it's warped. If you go out into space, it's completely different than what we experience here. And as a matter of fact, depending on the speed that someone is going, they could, like, I could I could look like I'm all distorted depending on if we're going at different speeds. And there's but yeah, it's definitely a man-made assumptions have to go into that. Man says
Yeah.
nothing
Well,
can travel faster than the speed of light.
yeah.
And
So anyway, their biggest objections have explanations
they do.
yeah,
Yep.
that still point to God. And then there's some things that the Bible says. Should we move on to what the Bible says?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment that I just don't agree with the assumptions that the scientists always generally come up with, because we have to remember that everything that's science is not fact.
Mhm.
It's theory.
Exploration.
Well, it's theories based off of assumptions.
Mhm.
And honestly, like, I trust God's word
Mhm.
above man's word. So, scientists have all these laws, like the laws of physics, the
Mhm.
laws of, but really it's God's laws.
Yeah, well, they've already exist they've
Why are they
always
called
existed.
laws? Like, why are
We're just discovering them.
exactly? That's
We're discovering the truth about the universe that God created.
a lot of what science is discovering new things. And
Yeah.
honestly, like, just like I said earlier, new discoveries make them have to force them to change their mind
Mhm.
on what they thought was fact before.
Yeah.
And it's always evolving. Like, you know what real evolution is? Science. Science is evolutionary.
Yeah. Well, it's true. I mean, think
We are
about when they thought the world was flat. You know, you're going to just
Well,
drop off.
I know a lot of our friends think the world is flat. I'm not of that group, but I don't judge anybody who is of that group.
Okay, so
Uh,
I have some interesting Bible verses, and one of them has a little something to do with that.
okay.
So can we move on to what the Bible says?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so the Bible says that before everything, the perfect triune God existed. And when they created, it was like, let us create man in our image. Okay. And that the universe did not always exist. God existed, the triune God, but the universe did not. So there was a nothingness. And that God created it and lives outside of time. And that it was made in a 6-day process. That's what Revelation, or excuse me, Genesis.
Oh, Genesis.
And that it was made through Christ. And because John 1:3, through him all things were made, without him nothing was made that has been made. And then God, it says that God sustains the universe, that he is involved in a very personal way, both then and still. And in Colossians 1:16-17, for by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are on earth, and he is before all things, and by him all things consist. And the Greek word root of that, it means held together, contained in, so that he holds it together. And I'm going to bring a little science in here for fun. In 2012, when the Higgs boson particle was discovered at the CERN in Switzerland.
Yep.
Okay, so the scientists had been fascinated and trying to understand what holds the universe together. We just read that it's God, but they discovered this Higgs boson particle with the Large Hadron Collider that, anyway, if you want to read about it. And so this particle is an elementary particle that holds all the subatomic particles, their mass, it holds them together. And it's the Higgs boson is a wave in the Higgs field, which fills the entire universe. And what did the scientists, what did they dub that particle?
The God particle.
The God particle.
They sure did.
And it's very interesting that they acknowledge that. And so then I did a search on the Bible verses that reveal that he holds all things together. And here's a couple Hebrews 1:3, the sun is the gleaming brightness of God's glory. He is the exact likeness of God's being. He uses his powerful word to hold all things together. And we know the word was with God and was God. So we know that right? Okay. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. Wow, that's awesome.
I have more thoughts on it, but why don't you jump in?
Well, yeah, I just had a couple of thoughts. So me thinking I feel like some scientists, I think are genuine and they want to know things and they want to discover and, but I do believe there's a lot of corruption in science today. And it just, so for me, in Romans 3, it says, God forbid, yea, let God be true, but every man a liar, as it is written, that thou mightest be justified in thy sayings and mightest overcome when thou art judged. So for me, that just tells me, though, regardless of what the truth is, for those who are purposely not wanting to share facts and truth and refuse to allow a hypothesis that there's a creation when you start a science experiment and all of that, I don't know. I feel like they'll get their due. The other thing I want to point out, like if you go and you reference the Bible, I don't know if it's Luke that kind of shows the whole genealogy, but even in Genesis, it says that Adam lived 130 years, and it goes through the whole biblical timeline. I think, which is a great reference. I actually, you mind if I pull that up really quick? I've got the biblical timeline.
While you're looking at that, I thought of a famous quote by Blaise Pascal, who I mean, he's amazing. He was a mathematician, inventor, theologian, physicist back in the 1600s. And at that time, he said, truth is so obscure in these times and falsehood so
Yes.
established that unless we love the truth, we cannot know it. And that was then. I mean, so just
Well, I think we all need to
corroborating.
be seeking the truth, period. Even if it doesn't like gel with what our preconceived ideas are.
Well, and people are obsessed with their truth. It's my truth. You know, that whole thing, just nuts. So,
You know, I want to, Prayer Warrior says, could the dinosaurs have been eliminated in the flood? And I don't think so. I think Noah brought dinosaurs on the ark with him. And it's just my opinion.
I'll have to, I have to look at that. I really thought about it.
Yeah. So like I said before, well, there's so many things. I was still in the middle of researching when we're doing our show because there was just so much to dig into. But yeah, there's in the beginning was the word.
Mhm.
But I love this because it lists all the dates in the Bible and then where you can find reference to those dates going all the way through until Jesus, of course. So, and then just kind of a high level from Adam from 4000 BC through 37, all the way up to the flood, to the Tower of Babel, to Abraham. Yeah. I just, the Bible gives so much history and it gives you the dates.
Yeah.
And it gives like how long people were alive and then who their children were and how long they were alive and who their children were. So you can track back in history just by reading the Bible. So I'm of the belief, it's not just me personally, that we do have a young earth.
Mhm.
I don't know what you like. I'm assuming you believe that too, but not
Yeah.
everybody does, and that's fine if you don't. I would love to hear your arguments for the other way.
I'm a young earther.
Yeah.
And yet I know Christians that are old earth, but still believe in God. And so I don't think that's a hill to die on,
No.
you know? And so it's like, okay, just do, you
It's
know,
a personal thing.
yeah, but you know, there's more objections and verses that I want to move on to, which is that, okay, so another objection is like on the fourth day, the sun, moon, and stars were made. And the star is supposedly billions of light years away, right? According to the old Earth, or right, old Earthers, and that they were here on the sixth day for Adam, and so that's 2 days. So there has to be old, okay, right? Not necessarily, but how could this be? And so just something about stars was really cool. Psalm 147:4. He counts the number of stars. He calls them all by names. I just love that. But as far as like, how could this be? Zechariah 12:1, God stretches out the heavens, establishes the earth, and fashions the spirit of humanity within it. And then Isaiah 40:22, God sits above the circle of the earth. Sorry, flat earthers. The circle of the earth and stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads.
Oh, which verse is that? Isaiah what?
Isaiah 40:22. He
40,
stretches out the
22.
heavens like a, you have it?
No, I'm just I'm gonna pull it up.
Like a curtain and spreads them out like a tent to dwell in. Another, Job 26:7. God stretches out the north over the void and hangs the earth on nothing. Psalm 104. Anyway, I could go on. This is interesting. There are, the Lord stretched or bowed the heavens, is stated 17 times in scripture.
Hmm.
So, and it's
I had no idea that the Bible had words that literally say the earth is a circle.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
That's incredible. I did not know that.
so yeah, I thought those were pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And so really it's saying deplorable, Mike, 17 times you say, you know, it is that number always comes up. But why couldn't he stretch the heavens and, you know, have the stars out at the furthest parts of the universe and, you know, create a mature earth that looks billions of years old? Obviously, you know, days 1 through 6, he created it. Boom, boom, boom. You
Mhm.
know, I mean, Adam wasn't a little baby; he was a man. So, and the vegetation there to support life, all life, the animals, it was all there ready. Why couldn't God do that? It's really easy for me to see and believe, but these, you know, that He stretched the heavens out like a curtain.
Hmm.
Really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Everything's in the Bible, all of
It,
our answers.
yeah, it is. And so I really think that everything we've talked about, it all boils down to two views, which is everything is caused by a cosmic accident. All of us, all of life, the complexity of just our bodies and how magnificently made they are.
Mhm.
That's a cosmic accident, or we're the result of a deliberate designer. Excuse me, yeah, a deliberate design by a designer.
An
And
intelligent designer.
right, that it was deliberate.
Oh, yeah,
And
absolutely.
really every belief for or against is derived from one of those two suppositions, right?
Yeah.
And I think that at the core, being human, you know, what's at the core of this is the questions: who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I
Everybody has that, right?
why am I here, and where am I going when I die? That's what all this is about. Really,
Yeah.
when you get, like, we look at the what, but it's like, why? I love to look at the why.
Mhm.
And I think that everything that we've discussed is an attempt to answer that. And
Mhm.
yet it's really interesting that the Bible is the only religious text of all the religious texts that has a unified description of creation, a plan for sin, and eternity.
Yes.
And it's the most authenticated historical document. So, and then if you look at how it's an integrated message system, it, you know, I mean, just in the beginning, when we did that word breakdown and the letter breakdown, and what it spelled out was the Christian gospel. It shared the gospel, and so did the names, and how their meaning of the names from Adam to Noah, the first 10 generations, explained
Yeah.
Christ, the gospel.
Man appointed mortal sour, the blessed God shall come down, teaching his death shall bring the despairing rest or comfort.
Boom.
I was able to pull that up real quick.
That is so awesome. And so, I mean, and there are there's thousands of messages like that, you
Mhm.
know, in there. And, you know, I mean, you got to imagine in the very, you know, in the Old Testament, why would the Jews at the time hide the story of the gospel in their text? They wouldn't. It's because it's divinely inspired.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
it's there to be discovered. So,
I want to get to a couple comments. Prayer Warrior said God knew the age of the earth, and what he did would be challenged and strategically provided dates in the Bible for us. So
mhm, mhm.
that is very true. We've got someone watching on Twitch. So we just started on Twitch. So
Hey,
welcome.
cool.
Ruthless Train believes the Earth is about 48 million years old.
Who does?
Ruthless Train on Twitch.
Oh, 48 million.
Yeah, not sure where did you come up with the 48 million years? I'd be interested in knowing. Yeah, so it's nice to see that folks found us on Twitch.
Yeah.
I think we've only had one show on there so far, so thank you for joining us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
We have a lot more that we could cover, and I think we'll put most of those details and references into our Substack with more videos. I had more videos queued up, but I think now is a good time to maybe start sharing some of our memes.
Okay.
Because
I want to thank Prayer Warrior for her comment.
oh, okay.
And you could read it.
Is it the one I
You
oh
see it, 'cause I'll get
Terry, your comment will forever change my life that God holds everything together, not only the universe, but our lives and circumstances as well. Something to pray on when you're going through hard, I'm assuming hard times.
Yeah.
Or hardships. Or
Thanks. I would have started to cry reading it because
oh,
but he's very personal. He didn't just create it and then bail.
right.
Us, you know, he's
Exactly.
involved in every detail of our lives. So okay, memes, let's do it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. The age of the Earth is like definitely a question worth pondering and chatting about. So, yeah, let's do memes.
Okay.
So I think I only have one in our list. So
Wait,
these are all
tells you what
memes.
my priorities are.
Well, to be honest, I haven't had time to find any memes.
That's okay. I love
You know,
memes.
you
I
know what
live by memes. Just kidding. It's okay.
I'm sad that like I created memes and I haven't been creating memes in a long, long time, and I want to have time to get back to some of that and get back to like creating videos and creating memes and stuff, because
It's just the season right now, sweetie, I think.
it is the season right now. There's just only so much time in a day. Plus people have to sleep, right? So all right, so let's start looking at these memes. Not that we're keeping track or anything, but us conspiracy theorists are up 37-0. That is so true,
I
isn't
think
it?
it's more than 37.
I think it should be 3,700-0.
Yeah.
You know, I love this meme because whenever we have thoughts or ideas or we're doing research and putting things out there, they scream conspiracy theory.
I know.
Or they sometimes all they say is these people have conspiracies, and it's like, well, conspiracies are factual, real things, real conspiracies. A theory is an idea that we believe there's a conspiracy.
But now we have a lot of conspiracies that have been revealed, so it's not even a theory.
Well, and they try to combine the two things.
Yeah, they do.
The actual conspiracy. Anyway, I'll continue with the memes. I love memes. A new variant discovered. It's called BS2 24/7. I love it. What's the latest one called? B something,
I don't even know.
right?
Pardon?
It was like B45 or something like that.
You know, I've kind of just tuned out.
Oh my gosh, that's created. That is funny. I said created because I was reading that word. But anyway, what's the point of going on with only a 99.97 survival rate? Right? That's COVID. Like most people survived COVID, and yet they locked the whole world down.
Yep.
Kind of crazy. Kind of crazy.
Yep.
All right, next one. Can we use Starlink in Crimea to attack Russia? And Elon, no. So I love that. So Elon just posted the other day about. Actually, should I? I don't know where the post is unless I linked it on Telegram when I posted it.
Mhm.
I should look, but basically, he was asked desperately
Mhm.
to turn on Starlink so that Ukraine could attack a bunch of Russian ships, and Elon said,
The Crimea area.
"No,
It was
I
our
have it. I have it.
it was our
Yeah,
DOD, right?
I actually do want to bring that up so the meme will make sense to anybody who's not familiar with this." So yeah, he said there was an emergency request from government authorities to activate Starlink all the way to Sevastopol. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Mhm.
The obvious intent being to sink most of the Russian fleet.
Mhm.
If I had agreed to their request, then SpaceX would be explicitly complicit in a major act of war and conflict escalation.
It would have been like a Pearl Harbor event, which
Yeah,
which we don't want to. There's a lot there, Pearl Harbor. But
yeah.
anyway.
So I
But
had
it would have
posted.
been that, and it would have been an escalation.
Yeah.
And so
So regardless of what you think of Elon, like that's pretty cool that he didn't go for that.
mhm.
Let's see what else we got here. This one was my only one. I tried to have it relate to our podcast tonight. So false
Aw,
evolution
I love
and
it.
true evolution. Isn't that so true though?
Mhm. Love it.
That's the thing about memes. They just can express so much in a picture. Is this from Dan Scavino?
Yeah, when it's 2023 and I see people wearing face diapers and talking about COVID cases again.
It's so true.
Say it one more time.
I'm surprised that it's not like a Groundhog Day
Are you
meme
gonna-
instead.
Okay.
Oh, it's a classic meme. It's a classic meme. I love this little guy because you can do so much with him.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love that one.
Which, by the way, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Imagine, if you will, a virus so smart that it attacks every 4 years during the presidential elections.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
That I haven't seen anybody with the mask yet. So I'm very happy not to see it.
Well, they're starting to require it, though. Some schools, like universities, are saying that kids have to. There's one that said they have to wear it for the first 2 weeks.
But then they retracted. So
oh, did they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, that's a good one. If medicine won't work, my medicine won't work unless you take yours.
That's basically what they said.
Isn't it true? That is what they said. That's so funny. All right. I'm seeing no Hawaiian flags on people's profiles like we saw Ukrainian flags. Guess the news didn't tell anyone to do that. That is so true. All the virtue signaling on Twitter and social media displaying the Ukrainian flag. Why aren't they displaying the Hawaiian flag?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Hang on, I got a cough. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
This is a really good one. And honestly, we said in our previous podcast we would update. Well, we did one update on Maui. I think we're due for another one in our next show to get some updates as to what's going on there.
Okay.
Whoops, I showed that one. We just have a few more. I don't think you understood what I said. You don't trust the science. No. I don't trust Epstein's friend who is not a scientist. This is so good. What a dig. It is so funny because Bill Gates is not a scientist, but yet he's pushing all the vaccine stuff. He's
He acts like a scientist.
experimenting with our food
Mm-hmm.
and wanting to put like mRNA in our food or vaccines in our food and fake meat and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a really good one. Okay, Fauci, be sure to wear sunscreen so the person next to you doesn't get burned. Oh my gosh, it's
That's
so
their
true.
science.
Well, on our last show, I think I showed that video that shows
Mm.
how tiny the COVID virus particle is.
Yeah.
And everything above it that's hundreds of times bigger that can still get through a mask.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, and he was on CNN. I mean, CNN called him out on it. The experts
Oh,
that have all
yeah.
come out and said the masks don't work.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, like they extensively studied it, and it's just like, no doubt. And he's like, well, there were other studies. That's all.
Yeah. I think I recently posted a montage I found on Fauci as well. It was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, last one here. Them, you put me and my family at risk by not wearing a mask. Me, you put me and my family at risk by mindlessly obeying anything the government and media tell you. That is a bunch of truth right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're putting us at risk.
Yeah.
So really good memes. I like them. I like them. You know what I should do? You guys tell me in chat. I should do a Telegram post asking for people to post memes and that we should show on the show related to our topic. I think that would be fun to show.
Do that the day before.
I should. I'm going to do that. Yeah. Anyway, this was an interesting topic. We definitely didn't get to everything I wanted to cover.
Well, there's so much. I mean, it really, the volumes of information, propaganda, it's all, it's impossible. I mean, it would be many hours and part 1, 2, 3, 4. But I think we got the gist of it.
Maybe what I'll do with the Substack is put it into smaller chunks because I think it would be hard to consume everything because there's a lot.
Okay.
There's a lot there.
Thanks for hanging with us with all the science stuff.
We went extra long today.
We did.
I still have coffee in my blessed cup though.
I still do too. This is my second cup though. But thanks for joining
my first
us.
Cup.
And we love y'all. Appreciate you.
Yeah. And have a wonderful weekend. We will be back on Tuesday evening. Topic. I think we're going to go ahead and cover predictive programming unless something major is going on in the news. And I think that will be a fun topic to talk through. Mm-hmm. So Tuesday night, we'll see you guys soon. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. We'll see you on social media out there.
All right. Have a good day, sweetie.
You too.
I can see clear